Hey, so earlier this morning I saw this article on Pixel about what famous photos would look like if their photographers used ugly watermarks, right? And it really did show a kind of overly garish look of what these famous pictures would look like with these really, really bad watermarks. But it made me think to myself that a lot of the times people just want to create very distinctive logo marks. So it's something that I think that can be done in Photoshop, and it can be done rather well, right? You wouldn't necessarily do this, right? And truthfully, there's not a lot of people that are doing that. I think to this day, this is a little bit extreme. You do see that, but it tends to be now more the exception than the rule. You definitely don't see this, even though you probably should see this over that Gursky. But I'll keep my opinion out of it. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and double click here, and I'm just going to show you kind of what I mean here. I'll go ahead and I'm going to open up a series of pictures, right? So 3 different pictures, the exact same picture really, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a watermark that I have already set up here, and I'm going to place this picture over here. So if I place this watermark on top of this area here, you'll see that that watermark occupies a specific amount of space, right? Now, if I bring it over to this picture over here, it occupies a much bigger space from this one to this one. If I bring it over here, you'll see that it occupies a completely different amount of space. Same picture, different spaces. Well, this one happens to be about 1,000 pixels wide at 72 dpi. This one happens to be 2,000 pixels wide, and this one happens to be a much bigger image, right? So this is a 11 by 17 at 240. So the watermark that you make, that you should use, should be something that should be kind of an identifiable mark, and it should live in a really, really small area, right? Somewhere over here is usually where I put it, so that it gets out of the way and is something that you don't really see all that much. But how do you do it and create something that looks cool and at the same time takes into account the fact that you'll be using it in 3 different areas? You definitely want to automate that. Well, let's talk about that process from start to finish. What I'm going to do is I'll show you kind of what I do. So right here, I'll usually take a sheet of paper and I'll sign a whole bunch of different things. Right? So I'll sign all of that stuff. I'll get that all kind of sorted out, and I'll use pens of different sizes so that, you know, I get different feelings for this. Once I have that all done, I'll go ahead and I'll do this and bring up a scan of all of those. So I'll take that sheet of paper and I'll scan it, and I scan it pretty big. Like if you'll see, right, 200 pixels, right, per inch. So I'm looking through all of these and I'm looking for one that I think is going to work for me. Now, the one that I think will work for me will be this one. So what I'll do is I'll copy that and I'll make that into a new document and I'll paste it. Right from here, I can get and take these 2 layers and I'll merge them by hitting Control E. And I want to thicken this up. So what I'll do is I'll go to Image Adjustments and I'll go to Threshold. And inside of Threshold, I can go ahead and drag this to the left and to the right, and you'll see that I can kind of make this not only black and white, removing any of the color of that scan, but I can change the, you know, the line depth. Clicking OK, that gets me what I need. But here's the problem. The problem is that if you take a look at the overall size of this, right, this is 1 inch by 1 inch. And if I start scaling this up, you're going to see that it starts getting blurry and you start losing a lot of detail. So for me, what I think would be really, really cool is to save this, and I'm just going to call this test. And I'll open up one of the other programs that I have here, Illustrator. Inside of Illustrator, I can go ahead and open up this same file, and I don't need to know a lot about Illustrator. I can just open that up, and you'll see that it's really, really small. But right inside of Illustrator, oh, this is going to kill me. So let me just go ahead and just turn this on. Application frame. Now, right here, what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to scale it up, and I want to make sure that I don't lose a lot of that detail. Well, the best way for me to do that is to convert this into a vector. Now, you'll see that right here at the very, very top, you have a button that says Image Trace. Click on that, and it's automatically traced this image. It's turned it into a vector, and you can specify how it does that over here. So in this area where you have a preset, if you wanted something that was shades of gray, it'll change that, the fidelity of that. If you wanted something that were sketched art, you'll see that the overall quality of this, I'm going to zoom in so you can see, right? So I go over here, silhouette, see that's different. Line art, that's different. You can obviously change these also by yourself by using different types of, use this trace section here and adjust the threshold there. But let's just say that I want to use something sketched art. So the good part about all of this is that I'm not necessarily worrying too much about how to use this. I'm just using a preset. However, this hasn't done anything yet, right? It's still a bitmap. What I want to do here is I'm going to click on this expand, and once I do that, you'll see that now this is an actual vector. If I did a Control Y or Command Y, you'll see that there's a shape that's there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box, I'm going to switch over here to this direct select tool. I'll take this box and I'll delete it so that the only thing that's left is this shape. Again, zoom out here, and I'll make this really big now. Once I have that set, I can go ahead and just copy that. I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to make a really big signature. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and make one that's, let's say, I don't know, 5 inches wide by 1 inch tall. And I'll paste that in there. I'm going to paste that as a smart object. Now that I have that all set, you'll see that the signature looks a lot better, and I can go ahead and I can add additional things to it. I've made this bigger this way to the left and to the right because ideally what I like to do for myself is I tend to make a different signature. So this is what I use for me. If you'll see this one right here, if you look at the image size, that's 7 by 1 at 300 pixels per inch, right? So it's a very big signature, but it doesn't solve for that problem. Right? I've already showed you how to scale that and how to make a super big signature. You can go ahead and save this on a specific portion of your hard drive. But here's the thing. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to open up these 3 pictures again. If I take this signature and I drop it over here, see, it's big here, not as big there, and over here, it's a little smaller there. So we've solved the problem of having a nice signature, right? Or having a big signature that you can use. But depending on where you are, what size of file you do, it's going to be hard for you to automate that process because see now it's really, really big. If I tried to transform it, it's impossible for me to do so without zooming out and taking care of it. So what I want to do is I want to automate this process. So what I tell everybody is when you have your signature all done, take that signature and save it at a specific portion of your hard drive. So I actually have this saved inside of a section called My Print Watermarks. I have that saved inside of my C drive. So just save it somewhere. Once you have that saved somewhere, you'll notice that you can open up a series of files. Let's go ahead and come over here. And once I have that open, instead of doing a drag or a copy or a move, I'm going to do a file place. By doing a file place, you can go to one of your signatures, right, wherever you have them stored, and place it, and it'll automatically scale it so that it fits inside of the document window. So you'll see that now in this 1000 pixel, it fits right there. Now all I have to do is hit the enter key, transform it down, bring it to the lower right hand corner, drop the opacity. Now, same thing. If I go over here and I go to that 2000, you'll see that that works. File place. I'm going to go ahead and save that same signature. I'm going to go back into that print watermarks directory. I use this one called signature large. See? Automatically, no matter where you were, right? You can automatically see it so you can scale it down. You can move it wherever you want to move it and do that. What I would recommend from there is just turn that into an action. Having a document open, let's just say that we go to the original one. Actually here, I would probably go, and I'm just going to create it on my 1000 pixel. So now let's create this action for it, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my actions here, and inside of my actions, I've already made a folder for myself called RC Actions. So inside of here, I'm just going to go ahead and create that new action, and I'll call it place sig. The action is going to be very easy. File place. I'm going to go to that directory where I have that watermark saved. I'm going to place it, hit the enter key. Then I'm going to do a transform, Command T, transform it down. That's the second step. Third step is move it and drop the opacity. Now, by doing this as very discrete steps, place being one, transform being the other, move being the next one, then the opacity being the next one, you can go ahead and stop this, and now you can add even further controls. Like, for example, if you were to just run this action right now by hitting play, it'll automatically do that same action over and over again. Well, what happens if you go to a bigger file? You place a signature, it just runs it over and over again. But you see how small that is right there? What if you wanted to scale that up? Well, the better way for you to do that would be to just kind of come to this twirl down, and you'll see the second step that you did here for transform. Click on this box right here that toggles the dialog. Now, when you open up that file, go to the 2000 one, we'll go ahead and we'll run this action, and you'll see what happens, that it'll stop there and it'll let you transform it. Now you can go ahead and move it exactly where you want it, get it to the size that you want. As soon as you hit the enter key, it continues with the rest of that, dropping the opacity, getting everything sorted out the way you want it, and then you can go ahead and, if you want to see any kind of final tweaks to it, you can go ahead and you can do that. So the key with all of this, I think, is you can go ahead and use something like this, but you don't necessarily want it to take away from the picture. And you do want to have a little bit of an identifying mark. By doing it this way with an action, you take into account different resolutions as well as taking into account a little bit of a personal branding. The last thing that I do want to leave you with is that if you take a look at the signatures that we've made, the signatures are actually black, right? And there might be times where you might need a white signature. So let's take a look at what we have here. So this was the file that we were using, right? The test. And from there, we went and we created this signature called signature white. But you see that it's black, right? Easiest way for you to transform that is on that layer. Everything is all black. Just go to Image, Adjustments, and Invert. Automatically takes the black one, turns it into a white one. So I would save two different versions. I would save one called signature black and signature white. And then when you get back into your action, you would make one that says place signature black, you call the black file, or place signature white and you call the white file. Now, if you want to follow along with more stuff that I do, you can always follow me over at my blog at aboutrc.com. You can catch some of the training that I do over at kelbytraining.com. And if you want to follow on Google+, you can always just go to g+rc.com. See you soon, guys.